So there's a lot of really nice cheap monitors you can get off the internet. Like this is a really nice general use monitor. It was only $130, but for some reason this one and a lot of other ones don't come pre-compatible with VESA wall mounts, which is really weird. You'd think that would be a standard by now. So I'm just going to show you two different ways you can just buy a random VESA wall mount off the internet. I got this one for like 10 bucks and attach your non-VESA compatible computer monitor to it anyway. So I'll explain what we're doing real quick and then we'll transition into a time lapse so you don't have to watch all the boring parts in real time. First you have to take off the stand that your monitor comes with. And in order to take off the back of the monitor, you're going to have to use some kind of pry bar, which I'm just going to use a flathead screwdriver. And you're going to need probably a Phillips head screwdriver as well to take out the screws. There's usually a few screws holding on the back of your monitor, and some of them might be hidden in crevices or whatever, so make sure you look closely. Once all the screws are out, you have to take your pry bar or your flathead screwdriver or whatever, and you have to pry off the bezel. Usually we start with the front bezel of the monitor. My monitor happens to not have a front bezel, so I'm just starting at the back. And just really gently stick your pry bar underneath the plastic and super gently pry it off. It's only held on there by plastic clips. Actually, you'll be surprised, there's really not a whole lot holding these monitors together, so it's relatively easy to pry them off. You just have to be really careful and go really slow so you don't crack your bezel. But just pry all the way around the sides of the bezel on the front or the back panel on the back, depending on what type of monitor you have, and all of the clips that are holding it on should be pried right off. At this point, you have to figure out where your mount is going to go. You have to mark out where you're going to drill some holes in the back of your monitor. And then I just used a 1/4 20-inch bolt with a washer. You're going to have to make sure that your bolt is coming out from inside of the monitor. And then slide your wall mount right onto those bolts, and then I used a lock washer and a nut to attach that on. My monitor happens to have a really weird uneven back, so I had to use two little spacers on the top two bolts so that the wall mount could lay flat against something and it wouldn't just be floating in midair. If taking apart and drilling holes in your monitor scares you, you can alternatively use super strong double-sided mounting tape. Now I'll have a link to the specific tape that I used in the description of the video, and The only thing to pay attention to with this is you need a sort of flat surface on the back of your monitor so that you can have as much surface area of the tape touching the monitor as possible. The back of my monitor happens to have a really weird shape, so I had to stick it all the way at the top so that it could be flat, but hopefully you have a normal monitor and you'll be able to do this much easier than I could. And trust me, this tape is really strong. It actually takes some effort to get the bracket off of the monitor after you tape it on. So there you go. If you accidentally got a computer monitor that doesn't come VESA mount compatible and you still want to mount it to your wall, don't despair, because you totally can. It just takes a little bit more effort and determination. It's not even that expensive to do this. The mounting bracket was like $10 off the internet. I got all the hardware that I used to mount it to the bracket for like $10 at a hardware store. The tape, if you want to go that route, was like $5. Hopefully you already have a drill and some drill bits, and if you don't, you can probably just borrow it from somebody else. It's a very common tool for somebody to have. And if you just buy the correct length bolts, you won't have to cut them like I did, so you won't need any kind of cutting tool. So there's really no excuse not to mount your computer to your wall. Anyway, I'm Dietec. I like to mod computers and build things, and if you're into that kind of thing, go ahead and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next one.